What's going on, beautiful people? It's your girl, Keniispeak. Welcome back to my channel. To my new subscribers, beat up your chest. If you've not subscribed as yet, go on and click that subscribe button. Click that notification button. Enjoy the conversation in the comments below.
We've been placed in and we've thrived and we've survived. And so what I would say to us is to avoid the Bill Cosby rhetoric, like we've seen where that's landed him. We don't have any place for that in our culture.
See, we can't talk out both sides of our mouth. We can't talk out both sides of our mouth, sister. We can't talk out both sides of our mouth. I didn't disagree with much of what you said today, but that's not what you said the other day, sister. You was talking down to working class blacks. You are a bourgeoisie. You are a bourgeoisie feminist, and I hope to God you wasn't engaged to no white man, because I thought somebody said you was engaged to a white man.
But I will say this, you know, the three things that couples argue about the most historically: money, sex, children. And the issue with the African American community is it's been very hard for us to build generational wealth because our men are disproportionately targeted by the police and incarcerated. Our neighborhoods are redlined, so we can't buy in neighborhoods where there are good schools and all of the rest that comes with it. So if you want to build generational wealth as an African American woman, and we are the most educated demographic in the country, then it's hard to marry a bus driver.
Now today we're continuing with this Eboni story, and Eboni's saying she can't even understand why the conversation keeps giving. Family, let's get into this video. So beautiful people, this is my third video on this topic. I did the first one when the video went viral, and then I did a clip on Dr. Umar and DJ Envy responding to Eboni. And now we're looking at these celebrities and their response, and we're going to react to it. So I'm going to play the videos and then give my take. If you want to see more on these videos, go and watch the ones I've done before. Just click the link in the bio below.
The confusion that I personally had about the bigotry of low expectations, the mediocre jobs that we're calling, or not we're, but some folks are calling the folks who drive buses and folks who are traditionally service workers. And I think that sometimes, you know, as attorneys, we can forget about where we came from and how important those roles are. And so I'm here because I thought long and hard about what it meant to come from a grandmother who was a nurse, a grandfather who had his own electrician business and made it in the jet, child, being an electrician. My grandmother, Granny, who was an inspector for the quality control line at Boeing. My grandfather, Gramps, who was a Pullman porter. Shout out to A. Philip Randolph. And all of them were service workers. All of them at some point could have been deemed mediocre. So what I would say is, if we are mediocre at all as a people, I'm just speaking very generally here. If we are mediocre at all as a people, the culture, if we're mediocre at all, it is because of the very whack-ass circumstances we've been placed in, and we've thrived and we've survived. And so what I would say to us is to avoid the Bill Cosby rhetoric, like we've seen where that's landed him. We don't have any place for that in our culture. We don't need to pull ourselves up by bootstraps when we, for whatever reason, have not been given the boots. We know what the reason is. So you can't pull yourself up. You can't condition yourself out of mediocrity. You have to be provided a different kind of playing field. And so I would challenge all of us to focus on equity, to focus on access, to focus on the things that change the conditioning, the current circumstance, the environment. Those are the things we need to focus on. And meanwhile, we need to shout out every person in our family, every person in our community that makes a difference for us, that has made our lives possible. There are folks in our community who were able to buy their first homes, those homes still in their families, because they were in these mediocre jobs, being exceptional, doing the best they could with what they have. And everybody else who's coasting, that's up to them. But we've got to be very careful with our words.
Worker. one of the hardest working people that I've ever met. His name was Dr. Dash, and was a surrogate grandfather to me. And I would go with him sometimes. And it's a really difficult job. And it doesn't pay that well, not as well as it should.
It should, because it's a
should pay
very
much
important
better.
job.
It is. We know that now with France. You know, the three things that couples argue about the most historically is money, sex, and children. And the issue with the African American community is it's been very hard for us to build generational wealth because our men are disproportionately targeted by the police and incarcerated. Our neighborhoods are redlined, so we can't buy in neighborhoods where there are good schools, and all of the rest that comes with it. So if you want to build generational wealth as an African American woman, and we are the most educated demographic in the country, then it's hard to marry a bus driver because you're gonna have to, your kids may not be in the best schools. Your kids, aren't.
Yeah, but he might be the best father.
Well, he may be the best father, but we're talking about generational wealth. Now, at this point, I am the exception. I make a lot of money, but until I become the rule, I don't know that Black women can afford to do this.
Well, you will be blocking out a lot of people, especially immigrants, because my father-in-law was a cab driver for a few years. He came in as a principal of a music school. My mother-in-law had to work in libraries. My brother-in-law was a lawyer from Rio who had to be a
But it's
jujitsu
different
instructor.
for white women.
If you're only dating a certain type of person, maybe, because these bus drivers, you talk about generational wealth, I would guess, and tell me if I'm listening to the wrong place, if you're speaking of generational wealth for Black people, are you only looking at Black bus drivers? Or are you saying for yourself?
I'm saying generational wealth as a concept.
Well, because I'm just saying that, like, when I look at these, I wanted to be a teacher. I had no plans of making much money, so I never saw that part. Knowing dating, I feel like you also limit yourself if you remove that they could be the best father, the best partner.
We have to understand there's poor immigrant women, there's poor Latina women, there's poor white women, there's poor Black women, and getting out of generational poverty is hard. It's very, very hard, and much harder for some of us. But I also think it's important for women to know themselves and what's important to them. Yeah. I have friends who are married to men who make no money, and they make a ton of money, and they are very, very happy.
Yeah.
And it allows
They
them.
make a ton of money.
Well, and because having those men there, sometimes taking care of the children, taking care of the house, allows them to have those successful careers. Yeah, listen, the important thing, Sonny, is that you don't feel complex about it, that you don't feel insecure about it. If you don't give a damn that your husband makes less money and that you make more money, then all power
and you don't care about generational wealth.
If you do care, then you have to acknowledge it.
Someone who never came from generational wealth and aspires to maybe leave some behind. That's a secondary thing. Happiness is going to be the first thing. Both of my grandparents, I look to them as an example because my actual parents got divorced. They were factory workers, but they loved each other. They provided each other the life that they wanted, and they were happy. I have seen wildly successful, wealthy people. Think of all the celebrities that have it all and they're going to leave tons behind, but they're not truly in love and happy.
There are a lot of them that are very happy.
But there are ones that are happy. I think it's an admirable thing to want to leave something behind, and that's my goal. But I think first and foremost, the happiness.
Well, and you also see a lot of people that marry for those things, and we've all had friends like that. And I would rather be alone than lonely next to someone. And I think that's the thing, is that when you see people doing it for money, there's an emptiness.
And let me make it clear, it's not just for money. I think that every generation needs to do better. At least that is my feeling. My father always told me my average must be excellent. And that is because of the history of African Americans in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is the perspective that I think Eboni was coming from. And that is my perspective.
Yes.
Beautiful people, we watched that together, and I want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. I heard everything each and every one of those ladies were saying, but most importantly, I heard the importance of partnership, the importance of family, the importance of accepting people where they are and working together to build something else, to build generational wealth. But here's the thing, the Black community has, they have this ideology of doing things on their own. Where when we look at other community, other race and ethnic, they do things together. I went and did my nails yesterday. And in the nail shop that I goes to as a ritual every, 5 to 6 weeks, the Chinese people lives above the workplace. They're never short of workers, and you would never know that they lack anything. You will never know. They work together as a family unit. The guy that was doing my nail was telling me that he sent for his son and his son is coming in. That's what they do. They send for each other. They live for each other, but they're building. They're building. They're building. There's order, but there's disorder in our community. There's disorder in our homes. There's disorder in our children, in our family. And we need to learn from other race how to build generational wealth as a unit and as a whole, and not just thinking I'm an independent woman trying to do it on my own and I don't have space to allow a man in to assist him and myself in going further, higher, and better. And here's the thing, we tend to judge or misjudge or evaluate people based on their income and based on the title of their job without getting to know that person's heart, without getting to know that person's intention, without getting to know that person's life, right? And here's the thing, I met my husband at 24. And if I judge my husband based on where he was a security guard when I met him, I would have never known that man had a very difficult life, right? And he could have been way further than he was in life. But I didn't judge him based on where he was, right? Now he's in a way better place in his life, way better position. But if I judged him 7-8 years ago based on where I saw him, I would have not known that there was potential in him in being a better man when it comes to finances, right? Right. So when they're talking about family, that's the most important, right? You can have a man who have money but will never be a great dad, will never be a great husband. But then you have a man who probably had a difficult start to life, was in and out of prison. Now he's have his feet on the ground. He's just taking off. He's not where he could be or where he should be. But in due time, just watch that man. And here's the thing. A lot of women want a man to build his life and build himself up. And then when he reached the height of his life, they want to get involved with this man. But where were you when he was struggling? Where were you when he was nothing? Where were you when he had nothing to his name? I don't even know where we get this mindset from or this mentality from, where you want to celebrate my win with me when I'm winning. But when I was struggling and when I was down and when I needed someone to lean on, you thought you were better than me. You thought you were more than me. And here's the thing about humility, right? Listen, you never know when or if you will fall. So be careful of the person that you are looking down on, because that same person you are looking down on might be the same person who will reach a hand out for you when you fall. God bless, guys. Leave your comments below. I'm telling you, this is a hot and interesting topic. I've done 3 videos on it now. This is the 3rd. Go watch part 1 and part 2. Leave your comments. And yes, Eboni needs to take responsibility and accountability for the words that have hurt so many people around the world. Even though she said it was not her intentions and she was being plain and honest, I say accept people for who they show that they are. And if they are not for you, go about your business. And if they are for you, support them. Eboni clearly is not for a lot of people, and that's why her ratings are going to go down. But for those who know who you are, your worth is not based in your work. Your worth is based on who you are. God bless.